Welcome to the Attention Deficit Disorder Expert Podcast Series by Attitude Magazine.
Hi, this is Wayne Cowan for Attitude Magazine. Today's topic, a 10-step plan for ADHD moms, will give all those mothers out there raising a child or children with ADHD or LD support and a practical action plan to make the journey a little easier. Many moms write into Attitude and say, I'm exhausted. I have too much to do and not enough help and assistance to handle everything on my plate, and no one gets me. Please help. We are very fortunate to have Kirk Martin of CelebrateCalm.com to give moms a plan to manage their lives so they have more energy and support to get things done. Kirk is founder of CelebrateCalm.com. He has helped more than 300,000 parents and teachers tackle the challenges of raising a child with ADHD. He speaks around the country and around the world on these important issues. Welcome, Kirk.
Hey, Wayne, thank you so much, and thank you, everybody, for joining us. Obviously, I am not an ADHD mom, but I am an ADHD dad, and so I know that it can be really tough. So I just wanted to go through 10 different steps kind of as we kick off the school year, too. I know all the anxiety is building up. So we'll do that, and then we'll get to your questions, and I'll try to make this as specific and practical as possible. So my first step is always, and if any of you know Celebrate Calm, we're all about controlling ourselves. There's one person in life that you can control, and that's yourself. So the self-support, really taking care of yourself, because, see, if you don't take care of yourself and make yourself a priority physically, emotionally, and spiritually, what happens is you just get drained and exhausted, and then you have nothing left to give. And most of you know when your kids come home from school, they're just wound up, they're stressed out, and you have to deal with all of their emotions and homework and dinner time and bedtime and bath time. And for most of you that have kids like mine, the worst parts of the day because he didn't want to do homework. They're picky eaters. Often many of your kids, they don't sleep well, they don't want to go to bed on time, so it's really, really tough. So I'll give you one idea, and it's this. Tell your kids, hey, you get to pick one after-school or extracurricular activity for yourself each semester, but I'm also picking out something for me because my time is important, because it's important for me to develop my gifts and passions and do what I love as well. So that's number one, is take care of yourself. Number two, don't revolve your life around your kids. Now, listen, I know that some of you have kids with severe disabilities, and sometimes you have to, right? I mean, you don't have any option. You have to be physically take care of them all the time. But learn to step back, and instead of your thoughts always being about like, I just need to make them happy all the time, and I need to do everything with them. Step back, and I encourage you, too, to look and see what is that pattern in your life. And I know this is a little bit deeper stuff, but it affects all of us. Why are you always giving out and trying to make everyone else happy, but you don't do that for yourself? And you may have noticed in that quest as a mom to make everybody happy, and this isn't just your kids, this is your child and your spouse and your friends and your mother-in-law and your mom and your dad and a lost cat down the street and your neighbors, try to do everything for everybody else. And think about this. It's not your job to make another person happy inside. Your job is to take care of yourself. And when you are happy, when you feel content and balanced, when you get that nap in, and this is for the stay-at-home moms especially, every day before your kids get home, I want you to lay down. And I know you'll say, but I can't, I don't have time, or I feel guilty because my husband works so hard at the office. I'm a man. I'll let you in on something. We don't work that hard all day. We have breaks all day long. But see, you're dealing with kids with a lot of emotional issues, social issues, school issues, and you need to have the energy to be able to deal with that at the end of the day. So don't revolve everything around the kids. I'd also say this. Learn to start having dinner separately with your spouse if you're married. Let the kids eat by themselves. One thing, my son and I went this summer to Europe, and we talked to parenting groups in several different countries. And one thing we saw in Europe, the adults eat with themselves, and the kids eat by themselves. They order their own food, and it works fine. So give up trying to revolve everything around the kids. Number three, here's a tough one. Slow life down purposefully. We live in a very, very hectic society, and there's no way that you can just rush through and get everything done. Some of you are perfectionists. Some of you are type A people like me, and you've got your list 3 miles long, and you just go and go and go and go. And here's the thing. You have kids who by nature have some special needs. They can't keep up with that pace, and they don't really get a choice. We're the adults, so we get to say no. So I encourage you a couple of things. What are you going to say no to? Pick it. It may make people upset, but just, I'm not doing that this semester. We're not doing it. Take control of your lifestyle. Now, we'll get to some school stuff later, but I'd encourage you with this. If you have younger kids, say no to homework sometimes. Now, I know that's controversial, but look at the research. There's no research that shows a correlation between homework and success in life. I guarantee if you meet successful people today and you say, hey, why are you so successful? They're never going to say, oh, you know what? In second grade, I rocked at my homework. And I know what you're going to say, but the teachers are going to be upset. They're going to mark my child down. And you get to say, that's okay, because we don't value good grades in second and third grade. We value learning and curiosity. We value laughing and playing together as a family and being whole, especially in elementary school. Some nights, I'm not doing homework. We're just not going to do it. But we are going to read. We're going to go outside. We're going to explore, and we're going to learn. We're going to make things, because some of you have kids that are little inventors, and they build, and they've got these great imaginations, and that all gets snuffed out when they're little, and I don't want that to happen. Another idea for slowing life down. Create traditions. See, I love the idea of traditions, because traditions tell us what to do. So if I say, hey, Thanksgiving, your first thought is not what aren't we going to do, it's what are we going to do? Who's going to bring the pumpkin pie? So have some traditions in your home that are the same every week. Every Tuesday night is Technology-Free Tuesday, so no screens at all on Tuesday night. On Wednesday night is pajamas and pancakes night. So I know they're not good for you, but you can throw some peanut butter and some walnuts on them, and bam, you add a little protein, you're okay. But you get the idea. Thursday nights, what is Thursday night's routine, or Friday night, or Saturday morning? Maybe dad takes the kids out on Saturday morning, and that's bonding time. You get to be in your house all by yourself. I don't understand it because I'm not a woman, but my wife always said, I love it when you take the kids out Saturday morning and I can clean all by myself. Now I'm kind of the one who does all the cleaning in the house, and I do like to be alone in the house. So some traditions that are the same. Number 4, be proactive with this. And I want you to take a little bit more of a proactive stance and help teachers, friends, parents, your spouse, help them understand what you and your child struggle with and how they can support you. And I'll give you an idea. And if you want more on this, let me know. Just email us. I'm Kirk at celebratecalm.com. You can go to our website, but it's I just sent this out in a newsletter. We do a free newsletter a couple times a week. And so here's a great idea. You've got a child. Let's say his name is Dylan. Instead of going into the teacher and saying, hey, you know what, man, my child really struggles with this and with that. And last year he got kicked out of school and he's struggling with this, and taking in 40 pages of testing, the teacher's not going to be able to read that. But I would encourage you to come up with a 1 or 2 page, very short and sweet, little sheet. Maybe you call it Dylan's story, because you're going to tell a story about your child. For those of you who go through IEP meetings and do all of that, one of the best things you can do is tell a story about your child. So he's not just a number, so he's not just a child who struggles, but they get to see him. So on this sheet of paper, here's what I want. At the very top, what are your son or daughter's passions and interests in life? What do they love doing? What excites and motivates them? You know, you can put pictures on there of like Star Wars or collecting rocks or dinosaurs or a certain sports team. Are they great at chess? Do they love inventing things? And so what this does for the teacher is, instead of getting right to all of his struggles, you're going to say, you know what, this little guy who loves Star Wars, he loves building with Legos. And it gives the teacher a way to connect with your child, which is really important for your kids with anxiety. Now, second little section is this. What are your child's strengths? What are his great Character attributes. Oh, my child, he's got a great sense of humor. He's got a very quick wit. He asks lots of questions, usually off topic, but he asks lots of questions. He's really curious. He's great at adding numbers in his head. Whatever it is, he's got a tenacious spirit. He's persistent. Tell some personal things about your child. Some of you have kids who are adopted, and let people know, hey, listen, we adopted this kid. He was abandoned in Eastern Europe, and so he's had to fight and struggle where he battles with eczema and allergies, and he's taking these pills, and it's really tough for him, because you're starting to create a story about your child so that they see the fuller picture of who he is. Now, at the bottom of the sheet, here's where we get to your child's struggles. But I just don't list them all. I want to list and say, hey, this is my son. And I remember very distinctly doing this with my own son, saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Teacher, you're going to have my son in your class. He's going to struggle. I know he is. And here are the 3 big areas where he struggles. He has a lot of anxiety. But I don't just stop with telling what he struggles with. I like to be a partner, and I like to be able to give very specific strategies. So, Mrs. Teacher, here's what my son loves. If you will give him a very specific job to do every day when he comes into class, oh, man, he loves helping other people, and it really helps with his anxiety. You know what, my son, he's a very slow processor of information. He's just a deep thinker, but he's not very quick at doing it all. But here's what a teacher last year allowed him to do. She allowed my son to sit underneath his desk to complete his assignments. And I know you're going to think it's kind of weird, but he doesn't mind being different. He kind of likes it, and it really helps. And so what you're doing is you're giving the teacher an honest view of your child as a whole, and you're telling about his struggles, but also giving her some specific tips. Then throughout the year, as your child struggles and teacher sends home a note, hey, he's struggling with focus and attention, you can say, yeah, I know, we talked about that. Are you letting him sit underneath the desk? Are you giving him something, a sensory strip to play with underneath the desk? Are you allowing him to refill a water bottle for you in the middle of class, because that really helps him as well? Anyway, I hope that makes sense, but try to be proactive and give people tools. Another thing is this, giving kids tools to succeed. Do not allow your kids to become victims. And I know they have real struggles, but I just answered this one in the newsletter as well, because a lot of parents will say this. Well, my son will just say, well, I couldn't do that because my pills stopped working. Or I do have ADHD, remember? I don't want to give kids that as an excuse. So I want to counter that. I want to use kind of a no-nonsense, matter-of-fact tone. Hey, Jacob, it is precisely because you have ADHD that I expect more of you, because you are very bright. You're creative. You've got a lot of energy. You're inventive and genius. You can think strategically. You can outwit me and everyone we know with that great brain of yours. No son of mine is going to be defined by a negative label. So I bet you can find at least 5 creative ways to remember to turn in your assignment and do your chores if you want to. No excuses, son. Here's another one, and for me, I'm on number 5, giving your kids tools to succeed. So this rolls through some different things with doing homework, allowing kids to sit on an exercise ball. Some of your kids will say, Mom, can I listen to music when I do my homework? For some kids, not all, but some kids, listening to music actually helps them process information more quickly. For some of you, it's a complete distraction. For me, for my son, we always listen to music because there is rhythm in music, and the rhythm, think about this, the rhythm in the music, the rhythm in the in bouncing on an exercise ball actually helps focus the brain. It actually helps them sometimes think better. Let them do homework underneath the table, laying off a sofa upside down. But just look for different ways to do it. Number 6, I want you to create your own report card this year in school. Here's what I mean. For many of you, here's what your kids' experience is. They come home at the end of the semester and you say, hey, did you get your report card? And they're like, yeah, Mom, listen, budget cuts in the county, couldn't afford them. Because for many of your kids, report cards only measure the things they're not good at doing in school. So I want you to have your own report card. So think about this. What are you going to measure this year? What's important to you as a family? And even above that, what skills and attributes are important for your child's success? Now, I know what they are for me. It's creativity, imagination, problem solving. It's leadership. It's compassion. And what I want for many of your kids to come home at the end of the semester is to say this. You look at their report card and say, hey, good job bringing your grade up in math. Hey, you're struggling there in that subject. Do you need some help? I'll help you out. But school is important for you, and grades are important, but here's what's really important. And then you pull out your own report card and you show them throughout that last semester all the times they showed leadership and good problem solving. You have kids who are really good strategic thinkers. That's why they're so good at arguing with you. But that's a great life skill. They're persistent. You may call it pig-headed, but I call it persistent. And you start to see your kids in a different way, that they're not just defined by their grades, but you define them by the skills and attributes they have in life that will lead to life success. So I hope that makes sense as a starting point. Wayne, if you want to, we can do some questions and give people a break from my voice.
Okay, Kirk. A lot of questions about moms who work all day and come home, and they want to know how they can possibly, several of them have mentioned that when they try to take time for themselves, and here they are earning a living for their family, when they try to take time for themselves, some people, it could be family members, friends, call them selfish. So that seems to be a thread that runs through here. Raising an ADHD child while trying to hold down a job and earn an income for your family. How do they find time for the kinds of things you've mentioned?
Good question. I know that's tough because many of you are at work and you get the phone call from school. So not only are you trying to work, but sometimes you have to leave work to go get a child. You have to attend meetings. And it's tough because you get home from work. You may have to pick up your child from childcare somewhere. You're battling traffic. Now you've got dinner. You've got homework, all of that. And that's partially why I want to do as many proactive things and create the traditions. And it's partly why you're really going to have to simplify your life. You just simply can't get everything done. So really focus on the most important parts. That's why I like the idea of that report card. There's only so much stuff things you can stuff in a kid's brain. But what I'm looking for is I want a child who's curious and who's always learning and doing that. So simplifying is helpful. As far as other people calling you selfish and looking down at you, I don't really have anything for that, except you're just going to have to just not care what other people think. And I know that's hard because you're moms and you're sweet, but that's part of that pattern of really, I hate to say it like this, but I challenge men a lot, of us growing up as adults and saying, you know what, I'm not going to live my life and make decisions for my family based on what a neighbor or another family member thinks about that. So you're going to have to, some of it is just going to have to toughen up and say, you know what, this is a gift, and see if this helps. When you take, and let's make it easier for you, because I know you can't take a nap unless you're at work and you can sign out a conference room and go in there like you're having a meeting, but instead you get together with a couple moms and just take a 15-minute snooze. I did that in the corporate world before, but that's a whole different story. So you can't always do that. But is there 6 minutes? Is there 12 minutes that you can take? Is there 18 minutes? Is there 4 minutes? Is there even going home and putting on headphones and saying, hey, love you guys, love everybody here, but I need 8 minutes to decompress, and you put on 2 songs that really speak to you, that are really soothing, or that whatever it is to you, and you sit there and close your eyes for 8 minutes, because all of us can find 6 or 8 minutes somewhere. I think you're just going to have to make it a priority. Write it down and put it down. Here's another good idea. Ask your kids this, and especially your older kids will get this. Say, have you guys noticed when I come home stressed from work and we rush around, we never really get much done because I get anxious and I end up yelling, and then you end up crying, and it's not good. So what's a different tradition we could have in the evening? Now, part of this is getting your kids to step up and not doing everything for them. They are capable of doing a lot more than we ask. And I'm going to ask you to be honest with yourself. Many moms who work and also who stay at home are, what's the right word, Wayne? I'll put it on you. You're control freaks. You have control issues, and you're perfectionists, and you're mom, and you have to run the whole home. And sometimes you've got to step back from that and say, you know what? I'll let my kids do the dishes. But you know what you're going to have to watch is when they do the dishes, you end up going and say, oh, you didn't load the dishwasher the right way. You didn't do it. And everybody kind of shuts down, and you just say, you know what, I'll just do it myself because that's the only way I'm going to get it done the way I want it done. And that's honestly, that's your own control issue. So a lot of what we teach is it's not really, so much of this isn't really about your kids, but think about Wayne's question and how you phrase that. Well, but what about people who say this about me? That's me allowing other people to control what I do. Listen, I'm kind of a busy guy, but I hope this makes sense. I make myself a priority every day. I work out, and here's why. I'm an intense, controlling, perfectionist freak. If I don't get to the gym, if I don't go for my walks, I am anxious, and all that anxiety just dumps all over my kids. And I'll give you a little picture of this. I remember Casey, my son's a little bit younger, comes downstairs one day, and I immediately snap at him. Casey, did you get your homework done? You can recognize that tone. You know what the real issue was? It was my issue because I was behind on my work, but I was projecting out my own anxiety and dumping it all on him. And as soon as I do that, what happens to your kids? They get defensive. What are you getting all over me for? You know what? All I ask you to do is something simple. You can't even load the dishwasher for me, and you know where this goes, and endless back and forth. So I encourage you, expect more for the moms here. And I'm a guy, so I can say this. Expect your husbands to do something. And I can say that because for 15 years, I didn't do anything. And you know whose issue that was? Partly my wife's issue, because she never expected me to do it. And when she finally went back to school and said, I'm going back to school, if anybody wants to eat around here, someone's going to have to learn how to cook. Well, here's what I discovered. Food and hunger is very motivating. I learned how to cook. Now I do all the cooking in our home. I do most of the cleaning in our home too. And some of you, you've got to let go of stuff and expect your kids and your spouse and other people to do things. Allow other people to help you. Allow other people to do things with your kids so that you get a little bit of break time. Don't be afraid to ask people. Can I give you kind of a weird thing, but it's really helpful? There are senior citizens and older people right down the street from you or in your church or synagogue, and they'd love to help out. They're sitting inside all day long, and they don't have really anything to give. Nobody asks anything of them. I guarantee if you go talk to them and say, you know what, I've got this son, I've got this daughter, and it's really a challenge, and I'm working hard and coming home. A couple of nights a week, would you mind if my son came to your house and maybe he could help you take your dog out for a walk or maybe do things around the house? Would you mind even doing homework with him sometimes? Because you've got a lot of retired teachers out there in your neighborhoods. See, here's what happens. It's a blessing to someone else because that older person in your neighborhood now gets to give out and they get to spend time with their child. And by the way, older people are great with kids. They won't take any crap from your kids. It's great. And they can tell them about the depression and all those things, and it's wonderful. But it also gives you 5 minutes, 15 minutes when you get home to go for your walk. Give you a couple more ideas. Evening walk. Here's the thing. After dinner, here's the tradition, and this is actually our family tradition. After dinner, we go for a walk. And so you just say this, hey guys, I'm going for a walk, 15 minutes. Anybody want to join me? Now here's what's going to happen. Some of your kids and your husband are going, I don't want to go. So good. Bonus for you. Go enjoy a 15-minute walk with fresh air, talk to some neighbors, enjoy it. But as you lead, oftentimes people will follow, and your kids will end up coming out. And this is actually a great strategy for bedtime. Many of your kids, they're in school all day. They've got these busy, busy brains, running all the time. And the first time things slow down in daytime is when? At bedtime. You finally get them in bed, and they're like, Mom, can I talk? And you're like, no. I gave you Benadryl at dinner to try to knock you out. You're going to sleep. And you're exhausted. But that's when things slow down and their brain begins to dump all the anxiety from the day. But if you go for that evening walk, you'll find that while you're walking, kids tend to dump a lot, and they tend to talk. And now you can have these great talks while you're walking and talking and getting fresh air. So I hope that helps. There's no easy answer except that you're going to have to decide that it's really important and that it's a gift to your family to do that. And start small. Tonight, every night, I take 5 minutes for myself and then work work up to 7 minutes and 10 minutes and just do it until it just becomes, well, this is what we do. When we get done with dinner, mom takes off out the door and we do the dishes. And when mom comes in, she doesn't look at how the dishes are done. But when we get up in the morning, they're pretty clean. And you just let it go. Anyway, I hope that helps.
That was very helpful. One mom says, my hair trigger is when my impulsive, angry son starts throwing things. My husband's at work, and I'm the only one at home dealing with this. Nothing wears me out quicker than his angry, unprovoked outbursts. I really don't know how to handle this because it sets me off and I start yelling. Do you have any tips for this?
Okay, very, very good. And thanks for asking that, because I guarantee you 500 other people listening have the same thing. So it's tough on this, so I'll give you a few answers. And, if I don't get to your specific situation, feel free to email me anytime. It's kirk@celebratecalm.com. Try to answer this stuff, because I don't know if your son's like 7 or if he's 14, but let me go through a few things. So a few steps that I like to go through. Your child, and this isn't, and let's define this. This isn't just a tantrum of, Mom, I want a new video game, and you say no, and he starts yelling at you. Most of the time this is, he's coming home from school, you're asking like, hey, how was your day? And he just starts throwing things and having a tantrum and ranting and raving and yelling at you. You're like, I didn't even do anything to you yet. But he's carrying all this stress from school, and he's emotional. See, you can see this chain reaction, because now you're like, why are you talking to me like that? And see, the more you start ramping up and escalating, the more he responds to your anxiety, and it becomes this endless cycle. You guys all know this, because when your husband comes home and he starts escalating, you can see it from a mile away. So a few things to think about. First thought I always have is this: I can only control one person in life, and that's myself. So I hope you see the common theme. Instead of addressing your child's language and behavior first, I want you to address yours. I want you to do some things that calm you down. One of my favorite things is sitting down. I know it sounds kind of stupid and dumb, but sitting down is a really calming thing to do that puts out what we would call this whole emotional fire. That's what we call it. When your son's getting upset, he's emotionally on fire. When you sit down, it starts to change the dynamic a little bit. The power of acknowledgement. We talk about this. Think about this as a mom and as a woman. When you get really upset and your husband says, you know what, you're just overreacting. I know you love that. No, you don't like that at all. What you want him to say is, I can see why you'd be so frustrated. And sometimes that simple statement, acknowledging that your feelings are real and legitimate, is all you were really looking to. By the way, please just tell your husbands that, because we think we have to fix everything when you're upset. Just tell them, just say, you know what, all I need you to do is say, yeah, I can get why you're frustrated. And just tell him to be quiet and listen to you talk. He doesn't have to fix anything. We laugh because he's a man and he knows we get in trouble when we try to fix things. So here's what you can say to your son when he does it. Hey, Jacob, listen, I can tell when you use that tone, I can tell you're really frustrated. Okay, simple. You don't have to fix it. Now here's where I begin to take a little action. In our curriculum, we talk about putting out the emotional fire by doing this. Motion changes emotion. So it's a really great phrase. Motion, movement, changes emotion. So I'm not going to talk him out of his being upset. You know, you're just overreacting. You don't need to worry about that. It's going to be okay. That doesn't work. It never works to talk things through. I want you to use some kind of movement with him. And we'll do some older kid stuff, some little kid stuff. In this case, maybe he's like a 10, 12-year-old kid, and I say, hey, Jacob, listen, I can hear you're really frustrated. Listen, I'm going to go start on dinner. I'm going to go get the dog, and we're going to go for a walk, whatever it is. We're going to go grab a football. If you want to come outside with me, I'd love to listen why you're so frustrated. Maybe I can help you out. And I start moving. See, I'm not going to stand and go toe-to-toe with him and say, young man, you will not use that language in this home. I don't know why you're so upset, but I haven't done anything to you after all I do for you, and I cook and clean, and I can't. None of that stuff. It just makes it worse. You lead. You're starting to lead him to a calm place. If you've got a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old who's getting upset and throwing that tantrum or that meltdown, I want you to do this, and it's kind of weird. Just lay down on the floor. Lay down on the floor, start doing some push-ups. Start coloring. Do jumping jacks. I don't care what it is. Do some kind of movement and invite your child to take do some kind of motion, some kind of movement other than just talking, because it often helps him. Helps him calm down in the process. So let's take this. So I sit down. calm, even, matter-of-fact tone. And that's really important. No emotion in your voice. Hey, listen, seriously, act like you've seen it before, because you have, right? But, hey, Jake, I saw this yesterday. Tell you're really upset about something. Listen, I'm not going to get in an argument with you. But if you'd like to come walk the dog with me, listen, why don't you dump some Legos out on the floor? I'll sit on the floor. We'll build a little spaceship. I'll help you out with whatever you're struggling with. So it's very calming to a child because now the focus is on building Legos or throwing our football around instead of just trying to work on the issue. I don't have time to go through all the steps, but it's a good way. That alone is a good way to start to calm down the situation. If it's an older child, 14, 15, 16, and they're just taking it out on you and that's happened too long, some of you are just going to have to be assertive and look at them and say, listen, I'm not here to fix all your problems. I'll listen to you. But if you're going to talk to me like that, not working, okay? But if you want to do X, Y, or Z with me, listen, I'm all over that. With my son, for those of you who know us, he's just a very strong-willed, tough kid. And so I used that with him just dozens, probably hundreds of times, like, Case, listen, I'm not going to get in a fight with you. Get that you're upset right now. So if you want to grab some chips, I'll grab some salsa. I'll meet you out on the back deck, and I'll help you with whatever you're struggling with. There was something about changing the atmosphere, getting out in fresh air, sitting, putting our feet up. Chips and salsa is a very calming activity. You never see two people eating chips and salsa yelling at each other, do you? So, you know what I mean? So it just changes the dynamic. So I guess, long story short, in all of these things, begin to think, I can't change what the teacher does. I can't change what my friends and my judgmental relatives do. And I can't always control my child, but I can always control my response to them. And in controlling my response to them, I begin to change their behavior. I hope that makes sense.
Very good advice. This one mother gets very, very honest. She says, at times when things get really bad at our house, I am envious of parents who don't have these challenges. And after my son goes to bed, I ask myself, why are things so hard every day? And a certain amount of resentment kicks in. I feel bad about myself for feeling that. Do you have any perspective on this?
You know, I love your honesty. I think your honesty is half the battle there. So I would give yourself space. Give yourself space to have a pity party once in a while and to wallow in it a bit and do that. I think that's very healthy. Now, doing it every single day, all day long, not good. But that's just honesty. I've got a child that's really, really tough. And that kind of honesty is good. Give yourself some space to go through that. But here's where I really want to counter that long term. And I may jump back into my point to get to this. It's part of that whole idea of creating your report card is perspective. Because, see, many of the issues we have with these kids, if we were to see it long-term through the course of their entire lives, we would see these issues not as negatives, but as positives. Many of the struggles that your kids are facing right now that makes life so difficult for them are advantageous. They're necessary. These things that your kids struggle with are forming something deeper within them, a resourcefulness, a persistence. I'll give you this one. Your kids, many of them, are inventors. They are rule breakers. They are the ones who are going to do some great things in life, and you only do great things in life when someone says, you can't do that. And you have it, and many of your kids have it inside that says, oh yeah, you want to bet? Because you know why? My whole life people have been telling me there's something wrong with you. You don't do this right. You don't do that right. And you know what? I can do it. And some kids will be successful in life. And I know this isn't a great motivation, but it's true. It works a lot. Just to spite people and just to say, you know what? You didn't believe in me, but I'm going to show you through my sheer determination because I have gifts that don't get valued. See, our kids have gifts and skills that don't get valued in school. I'm not knocking the schools. I'm just saying they don't always value what's important for life success. We have this program. It's called ADHD University. I'm not doing a plug for it, but it's a great program. And one of the things we do in ADHD University, the biggest part of it to me, is not only the practical tools, it's perspective. To know, Do you know that the head of many major corporations can't even read well? They don't have great focus and attention, but because they didn't, I'll tell you a quick story. One of the biggest lawyers in the whole country, he had dyslexia, couldn't read well. And so when everybody else was like, oh, you need to get your son, you need to get help, and you need to do everything for your son, his mom would read to him. And this little boy would sit and listen to his mom read. And you know what skill he developed better than anybody else? The ability to listen. He grows up and everybody says, you'll never be successful, you can't read. And he says, yeah, I'm going to law school. Law school is a lot of reading. You know what he learned to do? In law school, he just read the summary, the brief. Everybody said, no, you have to read all 50, 60, 200 pages. He says, no, you don't, because I can just get it from there, because he was a little bit of a rule breaker. Fast forward many years. He is now one of the country's top criminal trial attorneys because he can hear witnesses when they lie. He gets them to stumble because he has such good listening and he's so in tune with things. He's still not a good reader. But I tell you those stories to say this. Many of those qualities that irritate you most are qualities that will make your kids really successful in life. So part of it is you're going to have to really toughen up and combat that and say, you know what, it is tough, but here's what else is happening. It's making you a different person. I guarantee you, moms that have difficult kids, you are more mature, you are more grown up, you also have more gray hair, but you are more grown up and mature, and you have changed because these kids will change your perspective on things because they do challenge you. And you know what part of the beauty of that and why I love my son, especially now that he's older, is he challenged me so much that I grew. I'm a different person because I had a more challenging child. So I know that doesn't always bring you a lot of, relief in the moment, but just have that in the back of your mind. This is forming good things inside of me, and this pig-headed thing inside of my kid one day will become persistence, and it will allow him to be successful. I'll give you one other story, and then we'll go back. For those of you, and this is kind of funny, and I hope you take it the right way, many of you have friends and neighbors and relatives who are always like, oh, your child sure has a lot of energy. And you know what they're saying. They're judging you. And once in a while, I want you to look at them, or just think this, but look at them and say, you know what? I love my son's energy. I know he gets in trouble at school sometimes, but all of that energy, it's all this creative and emotional, intellectual energy. He's curious. He's just not curious about things in school because it's boring to him, but he's curious and he's fascinated by things and he can learn about all these things. And I love his persistence. You may call it pig-headedness, but he's persistent. My son, when he drops down off of his bike, he gets back up. And here's what I want you to know. You better be nice to my son, because one day your compliant little easygoing kids are going to be working for my son because he's going to start his own business and he's going to need the little rule followers to work for him. So just watch it. Now, that's got a little bit of edge and an attitude to it, so you don't have to say that, but know that inside. Your kids are often going to be the really successful ones. They just are. So anyway, find a good friend whose child struggles. Now, what I usually tell people at our live workshops is find a friend whose kids are way worse than yours, because you can say, man, our son really struggles, but theirs are going to jail. I'm just saying perspective helps, but find a good friend whose child struggles and babysit for each other and watch each other's kids. It just helps. Stop being on the defensive. Your kids have these great qualities. So here's a good homework thing for you. This afternoon, start to write down. Write down all the things maybe that irritate you about your child, even your spouse, and then flip it around and say, but what's the positive side of that? And tonight, I want you, when your kids come home from school or you pick them up from childcare, to say, you know what I was thinking about today? Sometimes out of my anxiety, I label you pig-headed, and I think you're just obstinate. But you know what I think you are? I think you're persistent. And that's a really good quality. Hey, son, daughter, you know how you like to argue with me a lot? You know what that really is? It's good critical thinking skills. See, a lot of kids don't argue with their parents. And you know why? Because they're not that smart. I'm just kidding. But they just don't. But you know what? You're really bright. And when things don't make sense to you, your first reaction is to question it. You know what? I like that quality. I want you to question things in life. Now, I'll teach you how to argue with me respectfully, okay, because there's a difference. But I like the fact that you question things, and I like the fact that you're a good thinker, and that strategic brain of yours is going to serve you well in life. So try that tonight. Just send them, put a little note. Older kids, put a little note under their pillow or in their lunch tomorrow, so they get to see they've got some positive qualities. Just become armed with knowledge. Learn these different practical strategies. So your son does struggle with focus and attention. That's part of who he is. What are some different ways you can do homework? What are some different tools to give teachers so that he can focus better in class? Start to know that with kids who, here's a simple one. Your child, many of you have kids who do their homework, but then they forget to turn it in. You're like, why? Why would you forget it? Because they're 10. Turning in homework is not high on my list of things to do, but they forget. So here's one that you can do with most teachers. Hey, Mrs. Teacher, my son does his homework, so here's what we're going to do. As soon as he gets done with his homework, we're going to use this little cheap $29 scanner. We're going to scan it into our computer, and then we're going to email it to you. Boom. Homework's done. It's turned in the night before, and teacher can make it a little game and say, hey, but you can get your homework done by 7 o'clock tonight. And see, it's something simple, but have some, be armed with knowledge. And then I'll end up on this one. You've got to stop trying to make everybody else happy. You can't do it. It's a real trap in life, and moms, women in particular, you want to have the perfect holiday. Look, we've got the holiday coming up this weekend. And I know you're going to want like the perfect meal, and everybody's going to come over, and everything has to look nice. But you know what? It's probably going to rain, and your husband's going to probably forget to pick up something from the grocery store. And guess what? You're going to eat, and it's going to be fine. But stop trying to make everybody else happy. It's give your kids, give your spouse a little bit more responsibility so they can step up and just say, not my job to make you happy. It's my job to be content myself and to give you tools to succeed in life. But I'm not responsible for your happiness. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. One mom asks, my husband works hard, so I wind up taking our ADHD daughter to her doctor's appointments and school conferences. When I queried him about this, he said that he doesn't believe even that our daughter has ADHD. How do I convince him that she does, since she has a formal diagnosis? And how do I get him involved? I am exhausted from all these meetings. I feel alone.
Okay, that's really tough. And I know as a guy, we're very good at denial. Some of us, we just don't like the label, right? So ask him about that too. Some guys are like, oh, he doesn't have it. She just needs to bear down and buckle down. And some of it, to be honest with guys, including myself, we're just immature. And this is a common thing I get from women. My husband's a wonderful guy. He's great as long as everything goes his way. Well, that doesn't work in life. Your daughter has some real issues. So here's let's take soft approach. We'll take tough approach with him. I'll do tough approach first just because I like it. I think you're just going to have to be tough. I hope this doesn't sound bad, Wayne, but I'll just be blunt with it. Talk to men like men. Talk to them bluntly. Just say, here's the deal. You're your daughter's father. We did this together. I didn't pop out the baby alone. You were part of this. And I married a man, not a little boy, and I need you to step up. I don't care if you don't believe in the diagnosis. Okay, don't call it ADHD. But the truth is, your daughter struggles with focus and attention. She struggles with social skills. She struggles with anxiety. Just name what they are, but you don't have to have a label for it if you don't want. Just say, you have a daughter who struggles with that. She has a father who's a very successful guy and a father who has a lot of wisdom, but you're kind of absent from her life. And I'm just going to make a little bit of a leap here because this is what was true in my case. I didn't like my son when he was little because he was an inconvenience to me. And to be honest, I just didn't know how to handle my son. I was like, why can't he just do what he's told? And why can't he be like a little disciplined freak like me? Because he's 7, he's 8, he's 10. And so I needed to grow up, and you need to tell your husband she needs her father there. You don't have to call it ADHD. I don't care, but she needs you in her life, and that's your job. I didn't marry you for a paycheck. Anybody, and I tell this men all the time, working our jobs is easy stuff. Dealing with relationships, a child who has struggles, that is so draining for a man. So if you want a little softer approach with your sensitive man who can go out and work but can't deal with anything else, which is, I'm just making fun of myself, is say, listen, I know it's tough. I know this daughter is different than you expected, and I know it's tough to deal with, but I need your help with this, and I'm not doing it alone because I'm exhausted. If you think that I'm going to have any energy for you later in the bedroom while I'm doing everything, not happening anymore. So here's what I need. You need to be at that appointment next week with the school. And I will tell you this very firmly because we do a lot of work with IEPs. The IEP meeting and meetings at school change when men show up. And I don't mean to be sexist with that, but back when we first started this, I used to volunteer for single moms, and I go to the IEP meetings with them, and I dress up and look like an attorney. I just wouldn't say anything. And every single time they'd walk out crying saying, they would never listen to me before. They never helped me, but since you came, there's something about having another man there, another parent in those meetings that changes the dynamic. Tell your husband to take his cold, heartless, whatever, a stern kind of, tell him to take that into the school meeting because the teachers will be intimidated by him like you probably are, and your daughter will probably get more services. And I'm being serious about this. If you're a single mom out there, and I mean this, ask another guy from work or something to go to school with you. He doesn't have to say anything or pretend to be your husband, but it really helps to have two people there. Take a girlfriend if you need to, but it helps. But this raises a larger issue with marriage, which we do a lot with in our curriculum. But for the women, you're going to have to be really assertive and bold with your husbands. And you're going to have to let them know, I'm not doing this alone. I'm not here. I don't want you for the paycheck. Your daughter needs you. That your legacy is your kids, not your job. We can do with less, but what your daughter can't do without is an involved dad who's on her side. And I'll throw this out there if you want to scare your husbands a little bit. And it's a little bit larger and a little bit different, but it works with men. I know from working with enough kids that girls and boys, they need their daddies along. And you, for this particular mom, you can let your husband know, hey, if you're not involved in your daughter's life, in these tough things in life, when she's a teenager, she's going to find teenage boys who are really interested in her body. And the first boy that comes along says, yo, you're hot, you're hot. Guess what? She didn't get that affirmation from her daddy. She's going to look for it from a teenage boy. So if you don't want teenage boys groping your daughter, sorry to be so graphic, but it's just true. If you want teenage boys groping your daughter, you might want to get involved with her. So I apologize if I'm being a little bit acerbic, a little bit tough with the tone, but sometimes men just need to be talked to like men and say, you're going to be there Tuesday at 10 o'clock. I know, but I have an important meeting. Yeah, I know, but sometimes you have important meetings, you get out of them for other things that are a priority. Your daughter's a priority. You're going to be there. So when I know, the reason I hesitate with this is because I know a lot of the men are just going to be, I'm just not going to do it. I know you handle it. So I finalize with this one, a little softer approach too. Sometimes men don't get involved because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to. So let me go the soft route here because it sounded kind of harsh what I said before, but you still need to do it. Nobody told us as men how to handle this stuff. Your husband's father taught him how to work hard and shoot jump shots and be a tough man, but he didn't tell him how to deal with hard relationship stuff. So a softer approach is, hubby, I know this is hard stuff, but here's what I could use your help with. Could you, because you're really good at problem solving at work, could you maybe do some research? Could you come up with 2 or 3 different ways that our daughter could do homework in a different way? Maybe you could help her because she struggles with social skills and you're really good socially. Could you maybe take her out? Maybe model it for her, help her out with that? Maybe give your husband some 2 or 3, don't give him too many, 2 or 3 very specific ways he can get involved. And the more specific you are, the better it tends to be for men. So he doesn't get overwhelmed, like, I don't know what I'm doing, you just deal with the kid stuff. But give him very specific things. And when he does it, send them a little note at work and say, hey, last night when you took some extra time and you were patient with Sarah doing her homework, I know it meant a lot to her. That was awesome. XOXO, sign your name. And that's it. And give him a little positive affirmation until he starts getting a little bit more involved. I hope that helps as well. And if they're a little bit more complicated issues, send me an email, hang out at our website. You can go to we've got a Facebook page. You can post there, and I'll try to help you out in a little bit more depth.
Stacy has a question. She says she has to remind her 13-year-old son to keep doing chores. She asks him to do something. He doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. So she winds up doing it herself. And so how do you help with that? Here's a woman who's trying to delegate, but she winds up having to do it herself, not because she does it in a certain way and he doesn't do it. He's not doing it at all.
Right. Okay, good. Very, very common. And here's what I know about kids. Kids don't want to do chores, just like I don't want to either. And so I'm very matter of fact, very even. When I give my kids chores, it's just, this is the way it works. And I would just go very, very simple. Because here's the thing. I know kids with ADHD and different issues, they forget, they have trouble. But see, they don't forget when their friends they're going to play some video game together and get online at 7 o'clock p.m. They don't forget that. And when it's important to them, they don't have any trouble being organized. A lot of it is a motivation issue. So I think this afternoon when he gets home, I just say, hey, you know what? I need to apologize to you. This is actually really good. I like this. I need to apologize to you. See, I think based on my actions, I've taught you that you don't really have to be responsible because, see, I ask you to do your chores, but then you don't do it, and I jump in and do it for you, and that's my bad. So from now on, here's how it works. We're going to have a very simple rule in the house, which is this. No chores, no screen time. I know, but Mom, that's not fair. None of my friends' parents. Yeah, I know, because your friends' parents don't love them, okay, and they don't have the courage to stand up to their kids. You can't say that, but you can think it. But yeah, well, that's just the way it's going to work in the home because until the chores are done, there are no screens in the house. If the chores aren't done, expect pushback. But I don't want to do. I know. I know you're upset by it, but there's a really simple way for you to handle that, which is to do your chores. And I hate this. I don't mean to sound kind of condescending with it. But I just want to be kind of like, why are we letting our kids push us around? I mean, part of that is, I know it's frustrating, but part of that's your issue because you jumped in and did it. And I know it's just easier to do it and not put up with the whole stress of it. But I'd rather you put up with a few nights of him whining and complaining and throwing a tantrum and going through all of his stuff and just letting him, you're doing your chore. That's just the way it is. Yeah, that practice that you had to go to, yeah, listen, chores done, then you go to practice. I know, but that's not fair. Listen, here's the thing. Your son knows he doesn't have to do his chores because he knows you're ultra responsible and you'll end up doing it. And when you discipline, don't go on and on. You know, when I was a kid, I did my chores without even being asked. And we lived on a farm, and we had to milk the cows at 5 a.m., and we had to do this. And I can't believe after all I do for you, you can't even do one simple chore for me. Once you find yourself going down that path, your kids know, I've got her. She's going to get really upset now, and I don't have to do my chores. So that's when I want you to sit down, just look at them stoically, practice the stoic matter-of-fact tone. Yeah, got it. I don't want to do my chores either, but you know the rules. No chore, no screen time. Yep, no homework done, no TV show. That's just the way we roll in our home. And then you sit and don't do it for him, but follow through on that. So hard, but go ahead and do that one tonight. It's fun.
One last question. This might be a nice way to end it. This one mom wonders if she should start a support group in her town aimed at moms who are raising an ADHD child. She has friends who don't understand the challenges of what she's going through, and she simply says, no one gets me. Who do I turn to?
I think, you know what, I think that's a great idea. I'll throw out a few ideas for you. I know Chad, CHADD, part of this, Chad has support groups. I know you can start a support group. That's how I basically, honestly, this is how Celebrate Calm came about. I started a support group, and I just put a little ad in a local paper of like ADHD support group. And before long, we had a, you know what you can do? We had a, it was a local, like a, it wasn't Sylvan, but it was like a local learning center kind of place. They would give me the space. And like every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, I was just there, brought a few snacks, brought some water, and people started showing up. And so that's a great idea. Some people, some churches have groups with this things with disabilities. you can broaden it even beyond ADHD with OCD and ODD and all kinds of other things. I think it's a great idea to give out and just have a safe place for people to come. You can start a Facebook page. And if you do, reach out to me because I'll put it on my Facebook page. Sorry, not to spout my own thing, but it's facebook.com/celebrate calm. You can find our stuff there. I'll publicize it for you as well, but I think that's a great idea to do. You're going to find moms of all kinds of kids who are just stressed out, and it's nice just to know, Wayne, how many, you don't have to say, but I know, I can't see it on my screen now, but we'll end up having hundreds, maybe even by the time people end up downloading this, thousands of people listen to this. Because, so I just want you to know you're not alone. And so I'll close up with this. Take care of yourself today for one day only, Mom, and then make it every day. But one day I think, what can I do for myself? And start to see it as a gift to your kids to say, you know what, when I'm getting really upset tonight, I'm going to sit down on the sofa for 7 minutes, and I'm going to read a book or read something I want to read. And you know what will happen over time? Your kids will be like, Mom, you may need to go do that whole sitting and reading thing. Because they know when you go and you take care of yourself for 7 minutes, you're much more patient, your tone has changed, and you're different. So I hope for all of you, many of you, that you get to do a little walk tonight with your kids, or hopefully even without some of them, and take care of yourselves. But thank you for spending this time. Thank you. I know what I want to tell you is this, and I posted this on Facebook, and this will sound kind of weird, but I'm going to do it, even though it makes me uncomfortable. You work really hard. You hold your family together. Almost no moms feel like they do a good job, but you're doing a good job. And I want you to know, as a man, coming from a man, I'm proud of you. You're doing a better job than you think, and you love your kids, and that's more important than anything else we said here. So thank you for being that glue for your kids and being that safe place for your kids, because they need you. And I appreciate that you struggle on and do that for them.
Very good. We'll have to end it there. Thanks, Kirk, for all your insights, wisdom, and takeaways. I know I enjoyed it immensely, and I took notes as you were speaking, so thank you again. Have a good day, everyone.
For more Attitude Podcast and information on living well with attention deficit, visit attitudemag.com. That's ADDITUDEMAG.com.
If you're in business, you probably have a website, but can your site handle your growth? How many visitors before your site slows down or crashes? What about storage and data security? From web hosting to virtual servers, Pair Networks provides the online infrastructure you need to start, grow, and flourish. When it comes to security and updates, don't worry, we've got you covered. Our 24/7 US-based customer support is the best in the industry. No frustrating chatbots or sitting on hold for hours. Check out pair.com today to learn more. That's PAIR.com.